It's that time of the week. Yes, this week's Cult Movie Show, your weekly look at cult movies. Please welcome your hosts, Warren and Velvet.
Yes, welcome to another podcast of the Cult Movie Show, number 28, if I'm not mistaken. I am, of course, Warren, and sitting with me in the virtual studio, as always, is the amazing Velvet Rose. How are you, Velvet?
Oh, I'm doing quite fantastic, and have we got a show tonight? It's just the two of us, but that just means that's more time for movies, and we've got a really cool mixture of movies tonight. We've got a B movie, we've got an independent thriller, we've even got a Universal Studio classic creature feature, and of course we're going to squeeze in our mini movie review as we always do. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about tonight.
Oh, yeah. We do, yes, because we were actually meant to have a guest on today's show, but there were some sort of personal issues and so forth. So that has simply just been rescheduled. Put it that way. Rescheduled. So that's all cool. But it gives us time to talk about an additional movie. So I think that will be fun. And yet, no, you're so right, Velvet. We have got some great ones, I think, for this podcast. I think people are going to like these. People are definitely going to like these. So I think we should actually, there was something I just wanted to say before we start, Velvet. And I don't want to, because this show's all about movies. It's about cults. It's about art. Okay? And it's just something I wanted to say. And that is, and I'm not going to mention any names, okay? But if an artist, maybe they're an actor, an actress, who knows? If they want to voice an opinion, they're a human being and part of society. They're allowed to voice an opinion. If there is no opinion in art, there is no such thing as art. Without opinion, a great piece of art that hangs in a gallery is nothing more than paint on a canvas.
Right.
I've said my piece, and I don't want to say any more.
I think that's a great reminder. Yes. And how many times have I said on this show that many films, it doesn't mean it's a good film, because, that's very subjective. But if it elicits a reaction, I always call that a great piece of filmmaking. If it elicits a reaction, it may not be a nice reaction, it may disgust you, it may make you laugh, it may make you cry, but it elicits a reaction, and that's also a part of art.
That is exactly right. And just to those people who say that artists shouldn't have public opinions, well, if they don't, kiss goodbye to art. Because art is all about opinions. So,
exactly.
Anyway, no need to mention names or any such thing. All right.
I have to admit, though, it makes me laugh that we're opening up the night with a fucking B movie after saying that.
After saying all of that, when you hear what this first movie is, yes, you would sort of say, why the hell did you mention art and then talk about this film?
Yeah, they think we're going to talk about some kind of art house, or something, cutting edge. No, this one's just a pure piece of fun we got coming up, isn't it?
It is. And in fact, this movie was actually made because of a bet. Okay, that's because of a bet. So anyway, so let's get started, Velvet. Movie number one, and it is, hold on to your hats, boys and girls, it is Not of This Earth. And it is the 1988 version of Not of This Earth, the remake, not the original 1957 version that we're going to be talking about. And so this is obviously the original 1957 version was a Roger Corman film, and it tells the story of an alien who comes to Earth and is trying to harvest blood and find a cure for why their species on their planet is dying off because their blood is evaporating. Yes, I'm not joking. Evaporating. And they're trying to find a cure. So he comes to Earth and sets himself up and and he starts, of course, harvesting blood. So he's a bit like a vampire, except he's an alien, so he actually uses a machine to do it rather than, fangs and this sort of thing. And he hires a nurse to help look after him, and also a sort of, manservant,
a butler. Yeah.
As well. And, but the, nurse, her boyfriend just happens to be a police officer, and they think that there is something a little bit fishy about what's going on, and they start their own investigation within the mansion. And of course, they pretty soon find out that this guy is not a normal person. There is something very weird about him, and he's draining blood, killing people, and whatnot. So what did you think of, Not of This Earth, Velvet?
I honestly did not have high expectations for this movie at all. I thought it was going to be terrible. I thought it was going to be boring. I thought it was going to be stupid. I was honestly not looking forward to watching it, but I was so entertained by this, and I laughed out loud several times, and I really enjoyed this. This is a great piece of B horror. Like, it's not scary at all. It's not even gory for what it is
not
at all. And there's lots of boobs, and I love seeing boobs as much as the next woman. I love seeing boobs, and I was just like, there were boobs everywhere, and I'm just like, this is great. Like, in the first minute of the film, you see boobs, and I'm like, this is going to be a good movie, isn't it?
Well, there are some very famous boobs. It must be pointed out in this movie, because the main star of this movie, she plays the nurse. Nadine, I think the name of her character is.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is played by Tracy Lords. Now, I think most of the people listening will know who Tracy Lords is, and this was her very first. I don't know. I hate using the word legit, especially when I'm talking to you, Val.
It's a mainstream movie either, because it's a B movie. But this was her first non-pornographic
Correct.
film.
That was because I didn't want to say something that was going to insult you, Velvet. You know what I mean? So non-pornographic film. Yeah. And
so she was pretending to have sex instead of really doing it.
Correct. And it is in fact the only movie that Tracy Lords actually gets naked in. The only normal film. I see. I've done it again.
It's okay. I'm not offended.
Yeah, okay.
I probably actually will say it too. Don't worry. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
She was actually offered another movie by Jim Wynorski, who directed this one. Like, after this movie, he actually offered her another role in another one of his films, and she turned it down because she decided she no longer wanted to do nudity, because she wanted to do mainstream acting, and she figured if she kept doing nude scenes, she wouldn't get offered the type of roles that she wanted.
Well, she has actually worked with Jim Wynorski again. She worked with him actually quite recently in,
cool.
What was it, Shark and Saw Prison Camp Massacre? And where she plays the police officer. So she did actually get to work with Jim Wynorski again just a couple of years ago.
Cool.
So of course, in this movie, you will see, obviously, a very young Tracy Lords. She only, I think, was probably, 19, when they made this movie. Actually, she might have been a little bit older than that.
She is the hottest nurse on the planet in this movie. Yeah. Isn't she hot? Oh my God, so hot.
Oh, yes. And apparently, so we should actually tell you a little bit about how this film all came about. And it came about from a bet between the director, Jim Wynorski, who we mentioned, and Roger Corman, who, of course, made the original 1957 black and white movie. And Jim Wynorski bet him that he could remake the movie for exactly the same budget and in exactly the same period of time. So Roger Corman said, all right, I'll take on that bet, funded the movie, became producer of the movie, and that is how this movie was actually born, out of a dinner party bet. And one of the things that you will find in this movie is that there is huge amount of stock footage taken from other Roger Corman films and just slotted into the movie. So if you're ever wondering why there is a woman running around with a butcher's knife after somebody trying to kill them, that is the reason why. They simply just slotted it in. For instance, there is a couple of scenes taken from other Roger Corman films, such as Hollywood Boulevard, also Humanoids from the Deep, and they simply just slot the footage in. It has nothing to do with the movie.
But you know what the funny thing is? I'm not familiar with any of those films, quite honestly, so for me it actually worked. I didn't know there was so much stock footage from other films. There were a couple pieces where I'm kind of going, well, that's weird, and at one point, I even literally was like, is that a different actress than the one they literally just had half a second ago?
Yes, it is.
But for the most part, it actually is pretty well spliced together, I have to admit, for the most part. Like, if you're not familiar with the other films, you're not going to catch all these different films being spliced together.
Yes, there is a great scene in there where there is a woman with her dog, and it is where they're being hunted and then she is killed. And it is taken from Humanoids from the Deep, and then simply at the very final moment where the woman turns around, they slot in a different actress. And you can clearly see it's a different actress.
It was so funny when I was watching. I was like, was that seriously just a different actress just now? I was like, that's weird.
I know. And many of the scenes actually use the same script. They actually used large amounts of the original script and just reshot it. It's absolutely amazing. But this movie actually is fun. I mean, you'd agree with that, wouldn't it? It is fun.
Yeah, I laughed out loud several times. I was just like, there are just some parts where, I don't know, it's just like goofy ass dialogue. There's this one part where the fucking, I was going to say vampire, the fucking, I guess, alien is talking, but he does like a ridiculously dramatic pause. And when he does the pause, they have like Dracula organs, just like doo 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 doo.
Yes.
And then he finishes what he's saying, and like just random bits of humor that are in this. Now, you were excited about seeing Tracy Lords in this, but you know what? I was excited for Ace Mask. I was excited for that actor because when I was a kid, one of my favorite B movies when I was a kid was Swamp Thing 2. The Return of Swamp Thing. And Ace Mask played one of the, doctors that gets turned into a mutant later in the movie. And I'm like, oh, he's in this. And he plays a doctor. And I was like, how fitting.
There you go.
I was excited to see him. What I didn't like the beginning, they do that montage of like 8 different movies where they're showing a bunch of like horror creatures from different movies. And at first I was like, dang, are all these monsters going to be in this movie? I was just like, then you start watching it and I'm like, oh no, these are just, for whatever reason, he did it kind of like a old school 80s intro to a television show where they would have like just a montage of random things from stuff that's happened in other episodes that you may never see, or may have seen, may have never seen. And just like, that's what it reminded me of, just like an 80s intro to a TV show montage of random bits and pieces from future and past episodes but that are not in this movie. And I'm like, they even had vagina dentata. They had like a giant vagina with teeth.
Yes.
And I'm just like, wow, is that going to be in this movie?
Obviously it's just a montage of other scenes from Roger Corman's movies. And, but I think what they try to do with it, they're trying to sort of say that this is stuff from the Civil War, which has been taking place on the alien planet. Before, right?
Is that what that's supposed to be?
I think that's what it's supposed to be.
I didn't make that connection at all. Okay.
Yeah, and yes, and when you see footage of the supposed planet and his spaceship coming, that's all taken from other films. None of that was shot for this particular film. This film, if they could do it cheaply, they would do it cheaply. Like for instance, there is a scene where they decide that they are going to. He's going to send a human specimen back to the planet for study through their transporter beam thing, right? So in the original one, he actually goes out to a park and he meets up with a gentleman, takes the guy home, and then, puts him in some mind spell and sends him back. Now, in this one, well, they couldn't do that. It was too expensive. So they simply just have a strippogram arrive at the wrong house, and he takes her down to like the dungeon, and then transports her sort of back to his planet, because it would have cost too much money to go out and shoot the thing in the park.
That was one of my favorite scenes in this movie because it was so ridiculous. Just all of a sudden the doorbell rings and this woman comes in the door and starts singing and dancing and taking off her clothes, and she's like, "I'm your birthday girl." And then, she had, Coke bottle glasses. She couldn't see shit. And she's checking out the address, and she's like, "Oh, I'm at the wrong place." And he's like, No, this is fine. Come here."
Yes.
But it cracked me up because it was like, this movie found the weirdest ways to have boobs in the movie. And it was just like, how happy would you be if you just got a ring at your door and a woman comes in and just starts dancing and takes off her clothes?
I know. It's absolutely hilarious. And but the other thing too is that some of the stuff in this movie, it's like, I mean, you were talking about, with the organ music and so forth. There's that great scene, and I think this is the one you're referring to, where the butler actually says, "Will you be having dinner tonight?" And he just stands there and the organ starts playing, and he turns to the camera and goes, "No, I will be dining out." Sorry, it's absolutely, it's just absolutely hilarious, I think. And there's so many things like that.
This movie has a ton of plot holes in it too, but it's so funny you don't even care. Because my thing was, okay, so the aliens have the power of mind control. So why are they having trouble finding blood? Why don't you just go to fucking people and just mind control them into giving you blood donations? I mean, I was just like, you got the power of fucking mind control, dude. And then, what else did they have? It was, the blue lights from their eyes. So that was the weird thing too. So it's like the whole movie, this guy looks like a man in black. He literally looks like a stereotypical man in black. He's in a suit. A lot of times he's got the hat. He's got the dark sunglasses. He talks like a robot. And then whenever he takes off his glasses, he's got this blue light coming out of his eyes, and if people see it, it kills us. And I'm kind of like, why do you do that? I just
well,
don't get it.
That's the way they kill people. Because remember too, they communicate. This species communicate via telepathically, but via their eyes. They speak with their eyes. If you sort of follow the plot, it really is. It is just kind of. I mean, but the other thing too, it has to be asked is that this guy comes to Earth to start collecting blood. Well, you see his collection of blood. He's got, I don't know, he collects like about 10 or 15 litres of blood. You'd think he'd need to collect a little bit more than that and a little bit faster for the whole planet. And also, he goes and seeks the advice of a doctor, right? And the doctor, he keeps communicating with the doctor to try to find out why their blood is evaporating. Now, you would think that a species which is capable of interstellar travel would probably have more advanced medical techniques than Earth in 1988. But they seek the advice of an Earth doctor.
And it just, like I said, there's a ton of plot holes in this movie. But one of them that was funny, like the way they got that splicing to go in. So what was that? Was that one Hollywood Boulevard? Sunset Boulevard? Hollywood Boulevard? The one where the woman's run around in the cape with the knife. And the way they decided was that she was an alien, and she got a blood infusion that was rabies infected, and that's why she went crazy and was running around.
That's right. So that's the way they set it up. She gets a blood transfusion, but it just happened to be rabies infested blood. So she goes on a killing rampage. So then splice in 5 minutes from Hollywood Boulevard, and it's. It is absolutely amazing the way they did it. But it is in a sense what Jim Wynorski did is he took the original Roger Corman film, which is just a traditional black and white, sort of B horror film, and he really sexes it up. is maybe the best way to describe it.
Boobs everywhere. Oh my God, when he picks up
everywhere,
the hookers. Oh my God, I love the scene when he picks up the streetwalkers and he's like, they go pick up 3 of them and bring them back to the house and they think it's going to be a party and, they all got their boobs out and he doesn't care because he just wants their blood.
Yes. Yes, I know. He's not. I mean, he's confronted by boobs every 5 minutes, and this is our alien, and yes, he doesn't seem to concern him, whatsoever. No, he's just worried about collecting blood. And what did you think of the transportation device between the planets? This like blue walkway. And then this other alien appears in it to talk to him or, via telepathy to sort of say, right, this is what we're going to do. You've got 3 days to organise this, blah, blah, blah. And he really does look like a reject from what?
ZZ Top.
ZZ
like a
Top.
Member of
I know.
ZZ Top.
Yes. Just, it was, just absolutely hilarious, the way they do it. And, and also, even just little lines. I mean, I did love the way that, and I suppose it's the 80s, it's the Reagan era. And we actually in the police station do see a very nice portrait of Ronald Reagan hanging in the police station. And, so, it dates the film very much by that, apart from the 80s hairstyles. But it is very interesting that in the original Roger Corman movie, obviously from 1957, you have to add in the paranoia cinema section, which
the Cold War.
Yeah, we've talked about this before in black and white B movies. There's always some level of paranoia which is thrown into it. It was almost just like part of filmmaking then. And but what's really interesting in this one is that they throw the same thing in at the very end, where there's probably not a need to, but it's a nice little homage to to the original, that they kept that sort of paranoia in there, where Tracy is there, or obviously in the character of Nadine, talking to her police officer boyfriend, and they're there sort of saying, well, he was foreign.
So of course that means he's evil.
So he's evil. Yes, he's evil, but he's foreign. So it was very nice that I thought they kept it. They sort of kept that in. I thought it was a nice little touch. But but if you actually if you buy this film and on DVD, there is a very nice feature in the latest release, because the latest release actually comes with an audio commentary with both Jim Wynorski and Tracy Lords.
Oh, how fun.
And it is very, very interesting to watch them talk you through the movie, how it was made, what was going on, what Tracy's thoughts were at the time, being, her very first, I suppose, movie other than sort of adult cinema. So it was
a funny sex scene with her in there too, because there's a scene where she's riding, I guess, her cop boyfriend. They're having sex, and that hair flipping scene just cracks me up. Just like back, forth, back, forth, back, forth 3 times in like slow motion.
What's very interesting about that is that when they filmed that scene, she is nowhere near the actor. He's not even in the room when they filmed that.
I was wondering. I was like, I bet she's by herself. I was
yes,
like, I thought that actually.
Yeah, because the problem was apparently he was just newly married and he was just returned from his honeymoon. And, and he flatly refused to do anything sexual with Tracy Lords. So
when his wife would have cut his balls off.
Basically, yes. So that's why when we have the set scene, it's actually shot with his bit and her bit edited together. They're actually not anywhere near each other.
That's great. I love that.
That is actually kind of funny, and and you get to see other cool things. If you watch the commentary, like you'll see Jim Wynorski sort of say, "Oh, there's my car. That was my actual car," and all sorts of things like that. So I'll put it to you this way, it's a good investment. I mean, I love it when you get these movies, and they come with, audio commentary by the directors and by the actors.
I like those. Yeah, those are fun.
It really is good fun.
What'd you think of the butler in this movie? He reminded me of a 50s greaser reject. Like, he was like an annoying version of the Fonz from Happy Days. It's just
yes. I mean, he is. And it's in a sense that he is playing the identical character to the original movie. So that's why he does look like that, you know. And he talks like a sort of like a, what is it? A New Jersey sort of standover guy.
Yeah, kind of like a thug, just like a criminal. I don't know, just yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
weird.
He's meant to basically be a small-time criminal who gets hired by the alien to be his butler, and of course, because he is sort of a criminal, he'll turn a blind eye to everything that's going on. But in the end, you know, he's good at heart, and he realizes that, you know, he's a criminal, as in, like, he does some burglaries and things like that, but he's not into things like murder, you know.
Right.
So, you know, so he does become definitely one of the good guys, you know, to actually help stop the aliens in what they're doing, and teams up with Tracy and her boyfriend. So, no, I thought he was good, and that oversized suit that he wears, because it seriously is 3 sizes too big for him.
And the blood in this movie looks like diluted, like, cherry Kool-Aid. It's like the thinnest, most transparent blood you'll see in a movie.
Oh, it really is good fun. I mean, but I would say to anybody, if you this movie is so 80s, wouldn't you say, though? I mean, it is just the hair, I mean, the women's hair is just amazing in this. It is, you know, there is at least, you know, there is gallons of hair product going into every single actress, you know, the hair is just so big.
Oh yeah, I mean, that was definitely the decade of aerosol.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the aerosol age before we realized we were burning a hole in our ozone layer.
Yes, that's exactly right. Before we realised we couldn't just do that anymore. It is great fun. I mean, it's, as we said before, it's taking, you know, sort of like a classic B movie and sexing it up, you know, for the times.
Totally. The very first minute of the movie, you see boobs. There's a guy in the car getting either a blowjob or a hand job. And I'm just like, dang, they don't waste any time in this movie.
Oh, no, none at all. So, you know, it really is. It's great. It's great fun. So if you were going to rate this, well, of course, not if you were going to, you're going to have to rate it.
Okay, well, this is definitely a B movie, but like I said, it's a ton of plot holes. It's recycled material. So, I mean, if you were really big on Jim Wynorski's films and you were watching this and you see all this recycled footage, you might honestly feel kind of ripped off. Be like, hey, that's that scene from that movie. So, I mean, there's like 8 different movies spliced in here. So, I mean, that brings down the rating for me, unfortunately. But it's still quite watchable. It is funny. It's if you just need a laugh and you just want to see some boobs, literally, and you know, and you want to see an alien subplot, but there's not even like really any blood because the blood looks like I said diluted cherry Kool-Aid. I'm going to give this out of a possible 5 Eric Roberts. I'm going to give it 3 Erics out of a possible 5.
Okay, I reckon that's pretty good because see, I'm in a number of moods about this film because it is in many ways just really cheap and crap. But when you learn about the backstory, you know, about why it was made and how it was made, and the simple fact that it is Tracy Lord's first, you know, serious role, it definitely, and the other thing too is that you can see in Tracy Lord's that, because obviously Tracy Lords now is a well-established, you know, actress, you know, whether it be in TV. She's made, obviously, a number of art house films. She's, you know, she's got a good career. And, you know, and she's actually quite a good actress, I personally think. And it is interesting that when you watch this, because this really would have been the first time that she was being asked to give, you know, sort of like serious dialogue. Would that be a fair way, a fair thing? Yeah.
Totally.
And she actually does it very well. I think she actually does it very well. She's quite believable, considering the script that she's reading. I actually think she does it pretty well. So because this has got Tracy Lords in it, and because it's the only movie that Tracy Lords drops the top, I'm going to have to give it 4.
Okay. No, I mean, it is a funny movie, and I was entertained. Like, this is way better than what I expected, which is honestly, I had no expectations for this film.
Yes.
No, I mean, it is entertaining. I'm glad I watched it because I did laugh, and yeah, I did enjoy it.
Oh, look, this is one I would recommend to everybody. Go and hunt it down. You know, it is.
Don't watch it with your parents. Don't watch it on a first date.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. In fact, it reminds me a bit. Remember we talked about the movie Frankenhooker?
Oh, God, yeah. I actually thought about that movie whenever they were picking up the hookers. I don't know why, because these movies have nothing to do with each other, but for some fucking reason, I also thought of Frankenhooker when I was watching this movie.
Well, they're made in the same time period, and it's just like, and you know, it's that classic sort of 80s movie making. It's also, you know, like there's a ton of nudity, which is totally not required, but you know,
totally gratuitous.
But who cares? It's fun. So what does it matter? You know, there's also, as you said, there's no blood or gore in this whatsoever. You know, whatsoever. So, or there is a little bit, but that's actually from the other movie bits which are spliced in. The actual stuff that was shot for this movie, there's no blood at all. And the other thing too is that this movie is also very famous for Tracy Lords walking around in a blue bikini. I think you know the shot or the scene I'm talking about, Velvet. Apparently that is a very, 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 very rewatched piece of the of the movie.
Yeah, definitely.
So, in fact, it's very interesting when you watch this movie with the audio commentary. Actually hearing Jim Wynorski and Tracy Lords talking about whatever happened to that bikini. Do you know if we had that, we could make a fortune selling it on eBay?
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's some great movie memorabilia.
Yes, you know. So, no, definitely, I would say to everybody, check it out. And you know, seriously, you know, look, if you're a bit of a Tracy Lords film fan, if you're a Jim Wynorski fan and you haven't seen this one, it's definitely one to check out because it is lots of fun. It's not one that you take seriously, but it is, well, not that you take a lot of Jim Wynorski's movies seriously, but you know, it is lots of fun. And also just the latest version has the audio commentary with it is just absolutely fantastic. So, I really recommend this one, actually. I really do.
Yeah, if you're definitely a B-movie fan, this is definitely one you want to see.
Oh, without any doubt. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we will take a quick break, and we'll be back with... Well, I'll tell you what, Velvet surprised me with this one. So, anyway, we'll take a quick break, and then we will talk about our mini-movie.
Woohoo!
It's time to get excited, short film fans. It's mini movie review time.
It most definitely is. It's a mini movie review time. And Velvet, you have found us another amazing little short film. And so, look, take it away, because you are our, you know, mini movie person.
Okay, well, actually, shout out to our Twitter follower. You know who you are, because you actually tweeted us and said, hey, you guys need to check out this mini movie. And I did. And I was like, wow, this is actually really good. So thank you. You know who you are. And I also tweeted you thank you and told you we would be reviewing it on the show this week. So I hope you're listening in. So the film is called Ahalya. This has been re-uploaded to many different places online. You can find it easily on YouTube. It's always under different names, but it's a Bengali film. So it was made in India. It's in Bengali language, and they have a tendency to every once in a while randomly speak English. It's just part of their language culture. So this film is subtitled fully in English. So if you're lucky enough to listen to it in the native Bengali and understand, go for it. I'm sure you'll be entertained, and you can let us know how well the subtitles match up.
Yes.
But yeah, it runs about 15 minutes. The short is called Ahalya. You'll have to forgive me if my pronunciation's off on a couple of the names of the characters throughout the movie, what have you, since these names are rather unfamiliar to me. So the film runs about 15 minutes. It was made in 2015. It's called Ahalya. You can just literally type into any search engine, Ahalya short film, and you'll be able to find it. You'll probably find results on YouTube, for example. And basically, a police officer shows up at an artist's house. And this guy's, well, actually, he shows up at the artist's house, but his wife answers the door. But he thinks it's the guy's daughter. And then he realizes it's the guy's wife. So beautiful wife, super duper old man. So you're just like, how on earth is this old man got this beautiful young woman? But why is the police officer there? He's investigating a disappearance. A handsome young model was last seen at the artist's place posing for him while the artist was creating some of his art using this model, ironically, as a model.
Yes.
But then you realize there's something going on, and you just have to watch it all the way to the end to kind of get the story. Before I even get your thoughts on it, I just want to throw this out there really quick that for me, this wasn't totally predictable because after I watched it, I did have to go look up a little bit of the backstory. So if you watch this film and don't quite get it, go ahead and hit up the Wikipedia page, go online, and read up a little bit on some of these some of the culture that goes behind the story. It's based on a mythological story, but of Ahalya, and that's all I'm going to say. And so I just want to give that out there for people who watch this and kind of go, I'm not sure what happened. You can go read up on that and get some little information, and then you've just increased your knowledge base of mythology from other countries. There you go. So what do you think about this film, Warren?
I liked it. I didn't really know. It once again took me. It needed to be about halfway through until it all started to piece itself together, and then towards the end, I'll just say I think it's bleeding obvious what actually is going on. But it's good. I think it's clever. I didn't realize it's based on real mythology. So that
yes.
I thought was very interesting because I didn't realize that. It's really good. One of the problems with this one is, once again, it's very hard to get into any real depth with it because you have to give the ending away to really do that. And I don't really want to, to do that. Other than to say that, this couple, this man and wife, yes, they possess an object, let's just say, which has some pretty amazing powers. Let's just put it like that.
Yes,
it has some pretty amazing powers. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. And I think it's the first piece of Indian cinema we've ever talked about. I think.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to more things like that popping up because I have some good news about this. They actually are making a sequel to this short, and it's supposed to be released next month, February 2017. Oh,
cool.
And so I'm like, cool. So I'll keep an eye out for it to see when the sequel pops up. It's directed by Sujoy Ghosh. So I hope I'm saying that right. And yeah, I'm just like, wow, they're making a sequel to a short. I can't wait. Can't wait
yes.
to see how you do a sequel to this. I can't wait.
But it's in regards though to what you said, about the fact that they break into English quite a lot. I think the reason for that is that this is India, right? We're talking about.
Right,
remember
exactly.
Right. So obviously the India, obviously the official language of India isn't English, but the British were there for so long. That India was so influenced, by Britain, and vice versa. Obviously, what's Britain's favourite food? Curry. So it was so the influence they had on each other. In fact, Britain used to refer to India as the jewel in the crown of the empire. It was a little bit like Britain could lose any part of its empire except India. India was the most important part, of its empire. So it's not surprising that you get lots of English words, popping up in conversation. But I really liked it. I really liked it. And I sort of would like to learn more now about the mythology, to be truthful, after actually watching it. Because
totally.
because I have to admit, I know quite a bit about, like Australian mythology for obvious reasons. I know quite a bit about sort of Scandinavian mythology and that sort of thing, but I don't really know very much. Well, I don't really know anything about Indian mythology.
Neither do I.
And this has sort of given me a bit of a taste for it.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Yeah, I love that they did that. Yeah, it takes elements from the mythological story of Ahalya, and that's from the Ramayana. So, unfortunately, all these names are very foreign to me, and I'm totally unfamiliar with them. So, that's something I need to brush up on, too, especially if he's going to be bringing out a sequel. It'd be nice that when I'm watching the sequel, I'm not lost. Like, I kind of go, I can see where this is taking influence from, and I get what that means, and I get what the consequences of this and that are. And so, I mean, this, that's what I love about film, is it can introduce you to all these different concepts and cultures, and quite effortlessly and painlessly and in a fun way.
Without doubt. I mean, I know that there's a lot of countries, where I've seen a lot of, especially horror films, that I hope that, we get a chance to actually get to slot into the show. I mean, countries like Thailand make some amazing horror films, but that a lot of people just don't get to see because, Thai cinema is not exactly huge in the Western world.
Right.
But they make some great stuff, many of which get basically ripped off and remade in other countries. Also, we've talked about Chinese cinema before, like how huge that is. But, other places like South Korea, make some amazing products. I'm really hoping we get to do more stuff from, because even though we often talk about international films, it's Norway or it's Britain or it's Australia.
Yeah, it's usually like
Canada.
Western Europe or, English-speaking countries or Western Europe. Yes, I'm definitely open to branching out to really literally internationally anywhere. If it's, something original, something that elicits a reaction, I'm all for it. Definitely.
Most definitely. I mean, we talked about a number of Japanese movies, obviously, but obviously, but
we're going to take a break from that for a while.
Maybe for a little while. But
yeah, even after watching Tetsuo again, I need to take a break too.
but there's, like one area that we still haven't really sort of tapped into or touched is Chinese cinema. Now, whether it be from mainland China or whether it be from Hong Kong, or even Taiwan, there is a huge amount of product, just a huge amount of product, which we haven't spoken about, and also in this case, India. I mean, Bollywood. The Indian film industry, I think, actually produces more product than the United States.
That's what I've heard too. Yeah.
So it's huge, and yes. So I'm hoping that we will be able to do a bit more of it. Actually, I'm gone totally off topic as usual. But,
no, not at all. Because honestly, because we constantly get emails from people, and people tweet us, and they private message us on Twitter with their requests and suggestions for films for us to review, and it's almost always Western cinema.
Yes, it is, isn't it? And sorry, go just.
I'm saying that's not a bad. No, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Obviously we love Western cinema, but we're always open to any suggestion for literally any kind of international film, anything that's different, that goes against the mainstream and that elicits a response. Any kind of film, independent or big budget, we're welcome. We're happy to definitely check it out. It is a cult movie show, so we don't want everything to be, the top 10 blockbusters of 2016. We want to see the obscure. We want to see the different forms of storytelling. We want to be introduced to different mythologies and cultures. So,
absolutely.
So if you have any suggestions, for foreign cinema, or I should say, non-English speaking, non-Western cinema, feel free to send those suggestions our way. and we'll be happy to review those in the future.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Alrighty. Well, I suppose we will take a quick break because I'm about to have a coughing fit. I hate to say this, Velvet. I'm holding it back. I'm talking over the filler. Why do I always talk over the filler? I don't know. Anyway, we'll be right back. Well, we're back with movie number 2, and this threw me a little bit, I have to admit, Velvet, because it was not what I was expecting. If you remember, we were talking, and I sort of said, and you said, we're going to do a movie, and I'll name the movie. It's called Butterfly. And I sort of said to myself, oh, cool, we'll get to see Pia Zadora and Stacey Keach. That sounds, because I remember this movie. This is really kind of cool because I love Pia Zadora, and I think Stacey Keach is pretty amazing as well. And so I thought, it also had Orson Welles in it, for God's sake, so I thought, oh, wow, this is going to be cool. But no, it was not that version of Butterfly, because if you actually have a look on the internet, you will find that there are about 15 movies called Butterfly. So we need to point out this is Butterfly from 2010. Okay, that is crucial because if you do a search on this movie, you will be just confronted with a ton of movies called Butterfly. The most famous, obviously, being the one from the 80s, which I just mentioned. So, look, but this one is actually really good. I really liked this. It's the should I describe it or should you describe it, Velvet? What do you think?
I'll let you describe it because you're very articulate when it comes to describing films. I always look forward to hearing your summaries, and it also helps me to figure out what you got out of this film and whether it's going to be a good review or a bad review from you.
Yes, you it's like, what are you on about, Warren? What? I didn't see that. I mean, we could have actually got ourselves into so much trouble with this because if we hadn't have communicated properly, we could have actually have started this segment talking about two totally different films. Now, that would have been hilarious. That would have been hilarious.
That would have been so funny.
That would have really been hilarious. But anyway, so this version of Butterfly is from 2010, as we said, and it is the story of a young woman, a young film student, who kidnaps a sort of a B-grade horror director. Sort of a Jim Wynorski sort of type.
Horror director.
Yeah, sort of thing.
Straight-to-video horror director, yeah.
And she kidnaps him, and she starts sort of talking to him about why she's kidnapped him, and she wants to show him her movies that she's been making, her short films, each one probably, about 10 minutes long, something like that. And he doesn't understand. He's furious. It's, why the hell have you kidnapped me to show me your demo reel? What is all of this about? He can't work it out. And anyway, she shows the first movie, and it's a slasher film. But it's not just a slasher film. It turns out to be I've forgotten what the term is when they really kill somebody.
It's a snuff film.
And he thinks it's just a slasher short. And she basically explains to him, no, this is actually a snuff film I've just made. And we get to see numerous snuff films which she has actually created. And she keeps showing them to him while he's basically tied up, kept captive. And we're trying to work out what is going on. Why is she doing this? And it turns out it is a revenge plot for something that this director did in his youth, and that a number of other people, all the other ones are being killed. that they were involved in exactly the same event. And the event was basically a crime. It was an act of, basically pedophilia. That these people had actually made a pedophilic, is that right? A underage porn film. And so she is seeking revenge because the woman, I think we can say this, turns out to be her mother. And so she is seeking revenge on all of these different people, but she's turning them into little moviettes. So we actually get to see it a bit like an anthology movie where we've got all the little movies and they're tied together, by this story as she's explaining what is going on. But then, and I can't say what it is, there is one
there's
hell of a twist.
A double twist. There's a double twist. One you already gave away, but I mean, you probably might figure it out. I honestly didn't figure it out until they said it, and I was like, oh, okay. But some people already figured out the twist. You already revealed one of the twists, but then there's another twist. And then the way the movie ends, honestly, for me was a twist. So for me, this movie had like a double twist ending, which is hard to pull off. And because a lot of times it could be like just over the top and too much. And I'll say this much. The ending of this movie is a downer, but I liked it.
Oh, yeah. This is not an uplifting movie at all. This is a, I suppose a horror film. But it's, but the thing about it is that, there is nothing good will come from this. Nothing good will come from this. And, it's, I mean, I quite liked it that there is, I can't say I just don't want to give any more away, but,
exactly. This movie was directed by Edward E. Romero. No, there's no relation to to George A. Romero. Just in case you're wondering, no relation to George A. Romero. This is directed by Edward E. Romero. This is an independent film, which is why it has such an unconventional story. Again, without giving away too much, this is kind of like if you've ever seen the movie Hard Candy. Yeah. If you've ever seen that movie, you might like this one, but I can't guarantee it because this one takes it to another level since there's, this does involve the theme of snuff. And also, although Hard Candy with Ellen Page touches on the whole pedophilia subject, which is obviously a very touchy subject, and they managed to do it in a in Hard Candy, they managed to do it in almost like a PG kind of way. This movie touches on it, and honestly, the way this movie opened up when I very first started watching it, one of our Twitter followers actually requested that we review this movie. And honestly, when I very first checked it out, I was like, I literally told my co-host Warren, because I watched literally the first couple of seconds of it, and I was instantly uncomfortable. I was like, whoa, hold on, wait, what kind of movie is this? I was like, wait, hold on, what kind of movie is this? And I told my co-host Warren, I'm like, wait, I'm going to watch this movie first before I recommend it to you, because I need to make sure it's nothing too crazy. Because honestly, the way this movie opens up, a lot of people are going to be really uncomfortable with the imagery that's suggested because it hits that very fine line of they're telling the story and they're not doing anything illegal or breaking the law to tell the story, but they know how to hit that fucking nerve where you see this image and you know this isn't right. You know this is not a good situation. And you're just going, is this what I think it is? This can't be what I think it is. And it goes away and then the movie starts. And so like halfway through the movie, I'm kind of like, I remember it popped back in my head and I'm like, why the fuck did they even show that in the beginning? What was that? And then they bring it back home towards the end of the movie and you're like, oh, and that it supplies the motive for our protagonist to be creating these snuff films. And it influences the twists that happen in this movie. It influences the end of the movie. And it's amazing that they were able to create that kind of plot device just from what's literally maybe 1 minute of footage.
Yes, I know. I mean, one thing I would say is that one of the messages it gives, in a sense, is that if you are going to go out on a revenge spree, it probably would help to do 100% of the research not 50% of the research before you start it. Would that be fair?
Absolutely, because there was actually a point in this movie, again, it's a part of the twist, so I have to be vague about how I voiced this, but I'm going to say there was a part in the movie where I actually wondered to myself, I wonder if this girl knows blank. And then I got my answer later, oh, she doesn't know. And then I got, but the other person knows.
Yes.
So I'm sorry, I know that's extremely vague for our listeners, but if you watch the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I was like, oh, well, I got that question answered. But yeah, if you can get past, and I don't want to oversell it. It's not that the opening sequence is extremely gory or anything. It's just it hits on the theme of underage of kiddie porn. It hits on the theme of kiddie porn, and that's the thing that scared me when it hits you right in the very beginning of the movie, and you're like, wait, whoa, what is that? And then it goes away, and then I'm like, okay, what the fuck was that? Because they don't show anything, but you know something's not right. Like I said, it manages to instantly hit you with that sense of unease. And then all of a sudden, it just seems like it's just a movie about this girl kidnapping a guy that makes horror movies, and she's like, here, watch my horror movies and tell me what you think. And so I'm kind of like, well, so then you actually start blaming yourself. You start blaming yourself as, the victim. Like, now you're a self-blaming victim because you're like, well, I guess my imagination's overactive, or I just have a dirty mind, or why the fuck did I think that? But then they do bring it back home towards the end, and you were right in feeling and thinking the way you do in the opening sequence. And this movie just caught me off guard with that, and I was just like, that's great storytelling, that you can elicit that kind of emotion without really doing much of anything.
That is the thing. I mean, everything in this movie is implied, whether it be the crime itself. It is basically implied. You don't see the crime.
Right.
Okay. It is implied.
No.
Even the violence of the killing in the snuff films, it is still, in a sense, implied. You don't actually really see it. This is actually not a gory film.
No.
You will sometimes see the after effects, but you won't actually see it happen, which is, it's very interesting the way they've done it. So for instance, you may see a bloody object, a bloody knife or some such thing, but you won't actually see the act, the way they do it. It's always, you see it happening, but it's out of frame all the time, it's not a gory film at all. It's more about sort of telling you, what's going on rather than showing you what is going on. So it's quite, it's easy to watch in that sense. But then, of course, the subjects, I mean, obviously it's dealing with two subjects, which are, some of the biggest taboos that there are. So,
absolutely.
That can be difficult. But then again, I think the way that they went about making it, I think they dealt with it very well. Yes, I agree with you. When it very first starts, you feel a bit uncomfortable. But then I think the way that they shoot it, you sort of relax down and sort of say, no, this is all right. They're telling a story.
Right, exactly.
They're not being graphic there, or anything like that. So, I think it's put together really well. And and it is an anthology film in a sense too, isn't it? Because you've got all these different little stories which have been told and linked together as she is slowly revealing more and more and more of what the plot is as she talks to her sort of captive that she's got. And that links them all together. So yeah.
Exactly. Because at first you're kind of like, okay, because at first you just think like the first snuff film that she shows this guy. Sorry. Yes. I can't believe we're discussing a snuff film. This is not an actual snuff film, people. This is not an actual snuff film. Nobody was actually murdered in the making of this movie. This is a topic that comes up in the movie. And the very first snuff film of the story, you think it's kind of just a random encounter, and you're just like, okay, she's just seeking people out and killing them. And I have to say, I actually like the music In a lot of this movie, there's in the first snuff film, there's country music. In another snuff film, there's like industrial music. I really like the soundtrack in here. There's a lot of interesting cinematography. It's not really a vignette because it's not really a vignette film, but but she does have like these different films that she's made to help tell her story and exact her revenge in this movie. So the main character's name is Lainey. So I can quit saying her. Lainey is our protagonist here. And some of this stuff's kind of humorous, but it's not like they're really super trying to be funny, but they do give you a little bit of comic relief throughout this. Like one snuff film, I like that one a lot, was the one that they did it kind of like in a 50s sitcom style.
I was going to mention that because the young actress's name is Mandy Krishna.
Whoops, I have the wrong page.
I think it's Krishna. Krishna or
Kreischer.
And
there we go, Kreischer.
And she's quite good because she's of course in every little moviette that we see. Mm-hmm. But when we see it, she's actually quite a different character in every moviette. So she actually is, because, how many moviettes are there in this? Is there 4?
There are 4. Yeah, there are 4, and she changes her look and personality in each one.
And yes, and one of them where she obviously hunts down 2 of the people who were involved in this crime, and they happen to be a couple, like husband and wife, they're obviously quite crucial to the story because they're I think I can say this. I don't think this is giving too much away.
Oh, don't say. Don't say.
Okay, all right. But the thing is that because they're
involved in this crime,
they're involved in this crime, it's because they're a couple and they keep preaching moral values all the time. I think I can say that. Okay,
there you go. Totally.
That this movie starts off in black and white. This little movie in black and white, and it's intercut with scenes from 1950s sitcoms. About husband and wife, the families, and so we even get an artificial laugh track, which is actually put on it. So. It's really well done, and I think that's the thing. Each moviette is totally different to the one before. They're not the same story repeated. Each one is a different story, and so it's very well done, I thought.
Okay. Yeah, this the Lainey character, like I did like her in all the vignettes, but like the whole main story of where she's kidnapping the director and she's showing him these films, I found her acting honestly a little shaky. I like her, but I wasn't convinced by her performance in the main plot of the story for some reason. I don't know. But in the vignettes though, I always found her really believable and really good in the vignettes, which was the weird thing. So I don't know why that was.
Well, I was going to say that.
Think?
Well, I was going to say. She's still a young actress. She's really only starting her career in a sense. She doesn't have a huge back catalogue of work, especially not a lead role in a movie anyway.
Okay.
So it's although she's done a lot of work, but this is a lead role, so she has to carry the whole film. Right. And I think she does it reasonably well. The fact that. Yes, she plays the various different characters, but okay. So if we're talking about the overall film where she's holding the director hostage, I actually thought she was pretty good because she sort of plays it in a way where it's like she's this sort of flighty, I'm just a university student, but then she's also got a very serious side to her. Where she can start talking in that sort of flighty way and then suddenly just instantly turn into this real psycho bitch. I thought it was actually all right. I thought her performance was actually pretty good.
I really liked the director that she was holding captive, the character Nick Cole, the guy that played him, Jay Lines. I'm not sure how to say his name, Lisney.
Yeah.
He was really good. I really believe his performance. I found him really good because he ends up being in a lot of pain in this movie. I saw him saying, I thought he portrayed that quite well, and it was quite believable, and you could feel his pain, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Like, you're being held hostage, and you're being accused of some horrible crimes. And, it just, yeah. But I thought he was really good. I like the soundtrack. Yeah, there are some touchy subjects in this, so, trigger warning for anybody that's sensitive to anything that's talking about snuff or pedophilia, because that's a central theme. Both of these are central themes in this movie. But I really like the way they told the story. I like the way they gave us some twists towards the end. And I did like the unconventional ending of this movie. Because, like I said, the ending of this movie is a downer. Like, it's not a happy ending. But I liked it.
Yeah.
It was fucked up, but I liked it.
It's like when she realizes the missing bit of information. That's all I'll say.
There you go.
The missing piece of information which she didn't know about. Everything changes. But the problem is she gets the information a bit too late. And that's all I'll say. But it's but that event changes what's going to happen. It changes what, her plans. It changes what's going to happen. So it's good. I do like that twist in it. And it's not just a twist. It's, as you said, you actually did a double twist, because it then twists on itself, but then it's going to twist again. It's so yeah, no.
And they pulled it off in a good way, not in a way that was over the top or that ruined the movie, or it was just like, okay, now they're trying too hard or they're doing too much. It was really like it kept you interested. Towards the end, I did find the pacing got a little bit slow. I felt like there was some filler material, because you have the whole thing of her standing in the mirror, staring at herself, and I'm kind of like, now this is slowing down the pace of the film. But then when they go back to the, main story, I see why they needed to kind of insert that in there. I think they were trying to kind of keep it realistic for what the after effect was. But, I liked what I did again, like about the character Lainey in this, is that it brought up the theme of justifiable homicide, which is, again, a touchy subject. Do you do eye for an eye? If somebody's offended you or yours, is it okay for you to seek vigilante justice? That was an interesting discussion in the film. And also, it showed that the protagonist was conflicted. I mean, she was actually not a sociopath, because you start this movie off thinking she's just a nutbag, she's just crazy. But then you see she actually has motive, and she is actually conflicted by what she's doing. Like, she is starting to feel and deal with the repercussions of her actions.
Well, I think that's good, because if there was no sense of remorse whatsoever, she would not be just acting out revenge. She would actually be a psychopath. Right. And she's not a psychopath. She's just an incredibly tortured soul who has been hurt by what she's had to experience with her mother and their relationship. And so she wants payback, but she's not. Yeah, she's not a psychopath about it. The only thing is that, I suppose it could be argued that she could have taken all of this material and all the rest of it and approached a lawyer or approach the police force or law enforcement or something along those lines, rather than going on, sort of a vendetta, sort of type approach. But then again, it would be a fairly dull movie if that was
exactly. And that's an argument I had with myself about this movie, because there was one point where I was saying to myself, okay, I know this is obviously a work of fiction, but this movie just seems so unrealistic. But then I was like, yeah, but it's just like, but it's a movie, so
it's a movie. It
get to that degree, exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
That's the thing.
It's not totally breaking the laws of logic. It's not totally breaking the laws of logic when you think about it, because we're emotional beings and we don't always act logically. We come up with crazy fucking plans and schemes, and sometimes we act them out. I think for a lot of people who have ever been very bitterly hurt by other individuals,
what she does, I would argue, has probably gone through a lot of people's minds. The difference is that 99.99999% of people would never act on them. But the thing is that I'm sure, it goes through everyone's mind, where someone has seriously been, hurt, or their life has been destroyed by another person or something along these lines, that they would think about this sort of revenge killing spree,
right. No, totally.
And we think about it too. I mean, we sort of think, oh, this is a bit unrealistic, but then we're quite happy to watch Mel Gibson run around shooting 1,000 people in revenge. That's okay. We don't think twice about
right.
that.
Right. Yeah, if it's for entertainment purposes, that's fine.
Yes. I mean, you think about some of the acts of revenge carried out in, like some Mel Gibson films or some Arnie films or things like that. I mean, they're actually far more unrealistic than this.
Totally.
But we eat them up at the cinema, so, no. I mean, I liked it, I liked it. And, because, it's got to be over the top. Her reactions have got to be over the top to keep us interested and to give us that, give us a movie like that. So, I thought it was, I thought it was good. I definitely give this a thumbs up. I really do.
Yeah, another thing that this movie did that I did not expect, and honestly, it's not something you see often in a film that breaches this type of subject, is that, I'll just say the accused party in this case, they actually show that there's two sides to every story. And a lot of times we only hear the victim's side, and we don't always hear the side of the other person. And a lot of times we don't want to hear it because we think we know their fucking story. And in this movie, we don't know their story. And when we find out their story, it totally changes how we feel and, what we think about this person. And it just, I was like, wow, they managed to show there's two sides to every story. And I just did not expect that at all in this movie. And this is a nice independent gem. It can be a little hard to find because of the title Butterfly. It's interesting. I get why the movie's called Butterfly. They do reference Vladimir Nabokov, who's better known for writing Lolita. Yeah. But they mention him in this, and they talk about, butterflies, how from far away they're beautiful, but then you get up close and they can look like monsters.
Yes, yes.
And so, I mean, that's a great metaphor in this movie, because that's exactly what you're getting with this character of Lainey, that, don't let her cuteness fool you, because beneath the surface, there's a lot of anger and hurt, and, she's fueled to fulfill this, to avenge, this wrong that's happened. And yeah, just this movie is a lot better than I was expecting. I really, like I said, when the first minute of the movie, though, I was like, oh no, what is this?
Yes.
Then I was like, oh, okay. I was like, wait, let me watch the whole thing before I tell Warren we're going to review it, because, sometimes you guys will tweet us or private message us or email us, and every once in a while I'll just dive right in. Somebody will just say, hey, can you review this? And I just go, okay, and don't even check it out and just fucking watch it and we review it. And this was one of those few times where I'm like, ooh, I need to actually watch the whole thing before I even think of suggesting this to my co-host. I need to make sure that I'm not stepping into some weird territory here, because there's a lot of weirdos online.
Well, I mean, but here's the other thing. And the other thing too is I am pretty open-minded to the art that I'll watch. There's very little art, whether it be movies, whether it be plays, whether it be writing, that I am offended by. I mean, it's pretty hard to offend me with stuff. There are certain things I might be turned off by because of certain activities that are in there, but if it's part of the story, it's okay. So it's pretty hard to offend me like that. You can offend me, but not really with art.
Right. But yeah, I just wasn't 100% sure where this movie was fucking going in that first minute. I'm like, whoa, wait, okay, because I instantly knew what that was supposed to be, and I'm like, okay, why is this? Okay, what is that? But then, it totally tied in. It was appropriate for the story they were telling. It elicited a reaction without being offensive or over the top or controversial. Yes. But it triggered that warning signal in me as a viewer. And I'm like, oh, is this going to be a theme in here? And what's going on? And how graphic is this going to get? And like we said, this is not a graphic movie. There's very, 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 very little gore. And it's just, it's I like this movie.
Well, the other thing too is, I mean, a number of the subjects in this movie have been obviously, dealt with in much bigger movies than this. I mean,
Totally,
whether it be,
totally,
like Lolita, whether it be, even Taxi Driver, whether it be, what about the movie, Nicolas Cage, 8mm,
And you know what? Actually, even though this movie breaches the subjects of pedophilia as well as snuff films, it is remarkably tame in the way it actually portrays it compared to those movies you just mentioned. Yeah, yes. I mean, they did a really good job of talking about these really upsetting topics, but in a way that really, I don't want to say anybody could watch it. This is not going to be for everybody. But yeah, if you've watched 8mm with Nicolas Cage, if you've, watched Taxi Driver and they're talking about, Jodie Foster's underage punani being sold on the street. I mean, if you can handle those movies, you'll definitely be able to handle this movie.
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, you think about it, Taxi Driver is a critically acclaimed film.
Yes.
I mean, we can't on one hand sort of say, oh, these topics shouldn't be discussed, and then we'll sort of rave about how wonderful Taxi Driver is, so, it's just that this is obviously a cheaper, lower budget sort of movie, but it still works. It works. It pulls these subjects together very well. I really liked it. Actually, I really liked it. So, I mean, if we have to put this onto the Eric Roberts scale, Velvet, where's it going to fall for you?
Gosh, this is I think I'm going to give this, because this is one of those stumpers where you're kind of like, you're conflicted because you don't want to rate it too high and you don't want to rate it too low.
Yeah.
In my case, I'm going to give this 3.5 butterflies out of a possible 5 Erics. There we go.
Well,
that's how we're going to rate.
Okay, I think for me, God, it's a bit of a difficult one, this one, actually. I think it gets a passing grade, and I did enjoy it, but it's not a brilliant film, by any means.
Right.
But I think they cover the subject pretty well, and I think they're pretty respectful as well, considering the topic that they're talking about. So I'll give it a passing grade and give it 2.5. Okay, so it gets 50%, but I don't really think I can go a lot higher than that, truthfully. But it still gets a thumbs up. It still gets a passing grade, but that's about all, to be truthful. Yeah, from me.
Yeah, because, I didn't get bored with this movie. It did keep me engaged, and just the ending, literally like the last 15 minutes of this movie, I just did not see any of that coming.
Oh, no. It's another one. Yeah, it's another one of those movies where the ending, or not even just the ending, even just the last 15 minutes is where you suddenly realise, geez, even if I wasn't 100% engaged before, I'm glad I hung through it, because now, holy shit, now this is getting really freaking serious and interesting, So, so that's the thing, if you are watching this and you're sort of about halfway through and you sort of think, oh, look, I don't know if this is really going to go anywhere. Hang on, because you will be really surprised. Once you hit about that 3/4 mark, this film really then is where it really starts to kick off. So, I think it's good. I definitely think it's good. And thank you for the suggestion too. Thank
you, Twitter followers. You guys are just awesome. You guys always dig up these interesting gems for us to discuss and review. So this is Butterfly from 2010. That'll help you find it if you know the year, 2010, directed by Edward E. Romero, and also written by him.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So if the movie starts and you see starring Stacey Keach and Pia Zadora, you're watching the wrong film, okay? You're watching the wrong one. Although I would say to anybody, probably check that one out anyway, because it's actually... It's actually a movie that does fall into cult status. It's very interesting too, Velvet, because Butterfly, the 1980s film, does actually deal with taboo. So that's really interesting in itself, that they're all dealing with taboo subjects. It's just that in the 1980s film, it deals with a slightly different taboo. But it's still a taboo.
I'm like, ooh.
Well, we'll just
and you
say,
thought butterflies were cute until you watched these movies.
Yes. What should we just say? Stacey Keach plays the father. Pia Zadora plays the daughter. I use the word taboo. I don't need to say anything else. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. So anyway, that was a film which tanked so bad. It tanked
that's
so
a subject
bad.
matter not everybody can handle. That when you say taboo, you're not joking. That's a subject matter not everybody can handle.
Well, it's actually quite amazing that movie, Pia Zadora for that movie actually won a Golden Globe for Best New Talent. I don't know if you can believe this, right, for that movie.
Wow.
But simultaneously won Worst New Talent at the Golden Raspberries. Now, I don't know if anyone...
How subjective. Yeah, that's how subjective.
Well, I don't know. Yes, I don't know.
One person hates, another loves.
Yeah. And it has been said that her Golden Globe was actually rigged. It's been suggested because her husband at the time was a very, very wealthy businessman, as in a multi-millionaire, sort of businessman, okay? International businessman. And he, shall we just say, was taking a lot of the, what are they called, the Foreign Press Association, who actually vote for the Golden Globes, and he was taking huge amounts of them out on holidays. He was buying gifts. He was doing, shall we just say, a lot of money apparently changed hands. And it has been suggested...
Making a lot of donations.
Yes, it has been suggested that he basically bought that award for his wife. But then again, I still love Pia Zadora. Anyway, we're not talking about that movie. See how easily I go off topic. It's terrible, isn't it? I mean, Velvet, Velvet just sits back and goes, oh, for fuck's sake, what's he talking about now?
I just love
it's like, oh, God.
No, because you just bring it home. It's always connected to what we're talking about. It's talking about, they're both movies called Butterfly. They're both movies that talk about taboo subjects. So see, it's on topic.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true, I suppose. That's true. Alrighty, okay. Well, we're going to take another quick break, and then we will be back with our third movie, and this is a good one. Now, our final movie for this podcast. This is a good one, and this is definitely a true cult classic. I know that sometimes some people have sort of argued that some of the movies we've talked about maybe aren't really truly cult films. I disagree with that, obviously very strongly, but this one, there is no doubt. This is a true cult classic, and it is, of course, Creature from the Black Lagoon. And it's a great one. It is I mean, wouldn't you agree? Yeah. I mean, this is a classic.
Oh, yeah. You told me ages ago, last year, that you wanted to review this movie eventually, and I was like, oh God, yeah, definitely. I love this movie. This is my favorite Universal horror monster, like my Universal Studios, the horror roster. This is my favorite monster, and he just doesn't get enough love,
Yes,
he doesn't get enough love.
I know.
There's been a million remakes of Dracula and fucking Frankenstein's monsters. There's been Wolfman movies, but the Gill Man, I mean, our Creature from the Black Lagoon, he does not get nearly enough attention. Well, I believe there's supposed to be a remake, but it's been like in production hell for decades. Well, and I think it's going to stay there.
Well, actually, we'll get to that in a minute. I suppose we should just describe the film first, and then Because the story about remaking this film is fascinating. It's an amazing story within itself. So maybe we'll get to that in just a moment. We'll talk about the film first.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right. Totally.
So basically, it's from 1954, and it is obviously it's a black and white, monster creature feature, if you like. I gotta say, if you like. Of course it is. It's a 1950s creature feature. But the thing is that this movie actually got really good reviews when it came out. And if you watch this, I think you'll agree, this is not your average B-grade movie. This movie actually stands out. It really does, it holds its own. Now, it's the story of a paleontologist. No, it's a geologist, I think it's meant to be.
I think they're all different kinds of scientists. I think there's like an archaeologist, and then there's like a biologist, and then there's somebody who studies. I think they're all over the place.
But in the deepest, darkest Brazil, basically on the just next door to the Amazon River, they find, or one of our characters finds a prehistoric hand. Okay, which is off a creature, and it's a weird creature because it's humanoid, but it actually has what do you call it? In between the fingers, it has
webbing, webbing fingers.
That's exactly right. And they date this from the rocks around it to being from 100 million years ago. So they think that it's some sort of weird missing link creature. Now, I'll get to that in a minute too, because the biology here just doesn't stand up. But anyway, we'll get to that in just a minute. So they form an expedition to go down the deepest, darkest Amazon River, and they end up in a site which is referred to as the Black Lagoon. Although it's called the Black Lagoon, I don't really know why, because it has the cleanest, clearest water you have ever seen. But anyway, so they end up there, and they're trying to find the rest of the fossil, of this creature. But, of course, it turns out that this creature is still very much alive. It has survived the 100 million years, and this creature is still around. And so, of course, we get into our normal thing now, where they're trying to kill the creature, or actually they start off trying to capture it, but that'll then turn into trying to kill it, as this creature seeks revenge against them and tries to kill all of them. So it's your pretty classic sort of, creature feature. But it's it's really good. It really stands out. The costume in this for 1954 was fantastic.
I love the mouth. Costume. Yeah, it's so well done. The
mouth and the eyes of the gill creature are brilliant. I mean, there's no fakeness about this. It really does look like a working mouth. It really does look like the eyes are real. So. It's very good. You don't see any zippers. You don't see, anything like that. It's not like the X from the bottom of the sea that we talked about, on previous podcasts. Where bits of the costume were missing. Well, they didn't care. It doesn't matter.
I forgot about that. Yeah. That was terrible. I liked the movie, but those costumes.
So what did you think of Creature from the Black Lagoon?
Oh, I love this movie. I saw this ages ago when I was a kid, and this movie was around before I was. But I managed to see this on television back in the day, and I instantly loved it back then. And when you said this was a movie you definitely wanted to cover on the show in the future, I was like, oh, I love this movie. It is really well done for the time, and it also doesn't have that total cheese factor that a lot of creature features from the 50s, horror movies era do. Honestly, when I was making my notes on this, there's not really a lot that you can make fun of. Yeah, like you said, the science isn't 100% on point.
No, I've talked about that in a minute, but yeah.
But the acting, the makeup, and the actual story, I mean, this is so well done. I do like that this story stands out from a lot of the creature features from the 50s because it's not a fucking creature that, oops, we dumped toxic waste, or, oh, that's radiation from an atomic bomb, or, oh, it's an alien, and, because it's, different from us, that automatically means it's going to kill us. This is a natural creature, and it was doing fine all by itself. It wasn't bothering anybody. And then a bunch of scientists come along and start, disturbing the habitat. Like, there's actually a scene in here which I don't know if it was meant to be comedic or there's a scene where, this woman she wants to preserve the habitat. She wants to leave the creature alone. She wants it to, be there and be fine. But then what does she do? She's smoking a cigarette and she throws it into the water.
Yes, I noticed that as well, Velvet. It's very interesting that this movie actually is a little bit different to a lot of creature features of the time in the sense that it does have an ecological, environmental message. In that, if we find something that's weird, wild, and wonderful, we've got to stop this mentality of just automatically wanting to destroy it, because it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's like sharks kill people. Yes. It's part of a balance of nature. Crocodiles kill people occasionally. Right. Yes, it's part of and it doesn't mean just because these creatures like to eat us for dinner if we get into their territory, but that doesn't mean we go and slaughter them all. It's like they're part of a complex biological system, and I like that in 1954 they were acknowledging that fact. And that's light years away from where we were in the 50s. Where big game hunting was still a popular sport. Let's see how, let's just, hunt rhinos until they're extinct. Let's hunt lions until they're extinct, So it was really interesting that this film went down that path, I thought.
Yeah, no, I thought so too, but I was confused by that one scene, and I don't think it was intentionally funny. I don't think they meant it to be funny or anything. I think it's just at the time, that's when your doctor was smoking. You would go to the doctor, be sick, the doctor be blowing smoke in your face, saying, okay, take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning and let me blow a puff of smoke in your face. I think smoking was just so fucking embedded in the culture back then that they didn't even realize that when she was smoking and throwing a cigarette in the water, that it was totally going against the concept. The
concept, I know.
Although I think that was unintentional. I think it was unintentional.
Although I do think there's some of the scenes can be explained because this movie was originally shown in 3D.
That's right. That's right.
For instance, sometimes you see a hand come through a port, the porthole, the creature's hand, and it seems a little bit silly. But if you then put that into perspective that you're watching that in 3D, it starts to make more sense.
Yeah. There's a lot of bubbles hitting the camera lens, and that was for 3D effect.
Yeah. So even the flicking of the cigarette may have actually been for 3D effect. I don't know.
You're right. I think you're right. No, I think you're totally right. I think you're spot on. There was a lot of the Gilman lunging towards the camera in the movie, and I totally forgot that this was originally meant for 3D. That I think it actually didn't even run in 3D in the United States is the weird thing. They showed it in 3D in other countries, but for some reason it didn't. I don't think it got 3D release in the US, although it was meant to be.
I'm 100% sure on that. I hate to contradict you. It did actually.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's why there's 2 of us. Yeah, neither of us has all the facts.
It was done in that really old style of 3D, with the twin colored glasses, and I don't think it was very successful in that sort of line. But the movie itself was really popular. It actually got very good reviews when it first came out, and the movie consistently gets good reviews. Even in not like cult movie shows like us, even in serious movie review programs, this movie gets good reviews. And I think the reason is that it's tight. It's got a good pace. It doesn't get boring. The creature is magnificently created, as in the bodysuit that actually there were 2 actors who played the monster or the creature. One would play the creature on land and another would play the creature in the water. So there were actually 2 actors.
Kudos to those actors. Kudos to those actors, especially the one in the water, because this movie has a lot of underwater cinematography that's really well done. Like better than a lot of what you actually see today, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, a lot better. It's like so they had a professional swimmer that obviously you had to have one for him to play the character the way he did underwater. Because, I mean, like, he's really swimming around and he really looks like he's at one with the water. And this guy was able to hold his breath for up to 4 minutes at a time, which, oh my God, that sounds fucking horrifying to me. I mean, I would drown the first minute. That is so fucking scary to me. And this guy's in this fucking suit that doesn't let him move around a lot. He can barely fucking see through it. And I'm just like, and you're in fucking dark water. I'm just, oh God, that's so scary to me.
Yes.
Just that concept alone, just being the fucking actor, I think is horrific. But they make so many beautiful shots. Like you see scenes where like the woman's swimming around in her 50s style swimming suit. She's wearing a white swimming suit and she's just like on the surface of the water swimming. And the creature's like mirroring
yes,
her
that's
below,
right.
swimming.
Yeah.
And that's a really iconic scene and it still holds up so beautifully, and it's just, I really enjoyed rewatching this film because I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I was like, you know what, it might be funny now, it might be silly now. No, this movie has aged ridiculously well. Like I said, the science isn't 100% on point, and yeah, she throws a cigarette in the water, but she's supposed to be for preserving the environment. But I mean, there's really not much in this movie that I can make fun of at all.
Well, no, I mean, the other thing too is that it, even though obviously it's all shot in California, but it does, it does, for a movie of its time, it does kind of look as if you're in Brazil. I mean, you could sort of say to yourself, yes, we really are in Brazil. I mean, if you think of a lot of the Tarzan material that was coming out at the same time, it's like, I'm sorry, but no, we are in California. We're not in Africa, you know. Or the other one, which is really bad, is at this period of time when they were making movies set in like medieval Europe, especially medieval England, you know, Knights of the Round Table and all this sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God. There weren't deserts in medieval England, you know what I mean? This clearly is California, but this movie does actually, I think, you know, pull it off pretty well, sort of like that. So you can sort of believe it. But yes, the creature itself, okay, beautifully done. Costumes fantastic. The swimming's great. The mouth movements, the fact you can actually see the tongue inside the mouth, it's very well done. But, okay, I just have to say this. It's meant to be 100 million years old, okay? There were dinosaurs walking around 100 million years ago, okay? Now, this is meant to be some missing link between amphibians and humans, right? No, guys. Right. Humans didn't develop that way. We came through the primate species, right? Okay. And now primates, yeah, all right, you can link it way, way, way back to fish and all that sort of stuff. Of course, we share DNA with fish, but the whole concept is that we did not develop from a sea creature directly. We came through the primates. And and I hate to say this too, 100 million years ago, there weren't even primates. Our relatives 100 million years ago.
Yeah, the science is definitely.
Yeah, we're tiny, we're tiny little mammals, you know, not much bigger than a rat. You know, that's what we friggin' came from, right? So the idea that it's this half fish, half man 100 million years ago, I'm sorry. The biology is a bit wrong there. I just had to say that. I'm sorry. But,
yeah, no, it's but I love the concept of the amphibious humanoid, which is what this creature is.
Yeah.
And it's just such a unique standout in the Universal Monster roster. You know, it's not a vampire. It's not a scientific creation. It's not a werewolf. It's not a mummy. And, you know, and some people even like to throw in the Phantom of the Opera, which that's another tragic character. And that one's actually just human. But I mean, those two are I love the creature from the Black Lagoon. And I'm so glad this is held up so well. When you watch the movie, he shows up, like you see the actual reveal about 24 minutes in, but I love how they keep teasing with his hands. And that that could be kind of cheesy, but I don't know. It works in this film. It's very classic 50s style horror of, we're not going to show you the monster right away, but we're going to let you see bits and pieces of his body part, and we're going to kill a couple of people before you finally see the monster. But I was just thinking, I was imagining, I was like, wow, if I was watching this movie for the very first time in 1954 in the theater, and they did that fucking face reveal where he's in the water, and you just see those gaping black eyes and that the black open mouth, and oh my god, I was like, wow, that would be really scary for the time. I think even now I just think the imagery of this creature is just it holds up so well, and it's iconic. Even if you've never seen this movie, if you show somebody a picture of the creature from the Black Lagoon, they know it's a 50s horror monster.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, he's as recognizable as Frankenstein's monster or Bela Lugosi's Dracula or Lon Chaney's Phantom of the Opera. And, of course, we got to throw in the Mummy. We got to have Boris Karloff. I mean, yeah. But it's crazy that not many people know the names of the actors who played the creature. Like, that has not carried over because... Yeah, why is that? Why are the actors who play the creature not as well known and recognized as those other horror icons?
Well, I think
the creature itself is recognized.
Well, I think it's because you can see the face. You can see Bela Lugosi's face. I think that's the reason why. I mean, as soon as you put, for instance, here's a question for people. We all know who did the voice for Darth Vader, but who played Darth Vader?
Oh, good one.
I think that's the same thing. You know, it's like because once you cover the face, suddenly the actor doesn't seem to resonate with us. But if the face is revealed, you know, like Bela Lugosi as Count Dracula, then the actor playing becomes, so I think that's where the difference is. But what is interesting, you're talking about remakes with this, and it's we should also say it's interesting too because the Gill Man, as such, the creature, was of course in a movie that we spoke about a number of weeks ago, in fact, a number of months ago now, called The Monster Squad, if you remember that.
And it was a nice nod, and I loved the way he looked in that movie, but wasn't that an undignified,
I know, yes.
Undignified storyline. He did nothing. He got killed so easily.
I know.
So sad.
I know.
Was just you're excited to see him in there. You're like, oh, the Gill Man, and then you're like, oh, and he's dead. Well, that was fun. This movie would, of course, get some sequels. There was Revenge of the Creature, yes,
and it would also then be followed by The Creature Walks Amongst Us. So there would actually be two sequels to this, but another one that not a lot of people are aware of that was made. It's not classified as a sequel, but it was Abbott and Costello Meet the Creature.
Real? How did I miss this one? I didn't know about this either.
Abbott and Costello actually made a little short film with the creature. Called Abbott and Costello Meet the Creature. So, this movie has really written itself into cult culture. And when we're talking about, this movie being remade, quite literally every decade there has been an attempt to remake this movie, which has been going on now since the 1960s.
Wow.
And there have been, attempt after attempt after attempt. I believe there's been something like about 6 attempts to actually remake this film. And every time it has fallen over for various reasons. But there is still stories about the fact that, yes, the rights are owned to make this film. So we may actually, see it again. The last attempt, it was actually just going to be it was going to be changed from The Creature from the Black Lagoon and simply just retitled The Black Lagoon. So it will be interesting to see if this project ever gets up. It is one movie that I think I would like to see remade. Would you? How do you feel about it? Because I know quite often it doesn't work.
Right. No, I agree. This is definitely a movie that does not need to be remade, but if they remake it, I'm going to be at the fucking midnight showing when it goes live. I'm going to be like I'm going to be like, okay, that's what I'm doing tonight. Like, when's it releasing? When's the first showing? I'm there. Because especially, they did such a fantastic job on his costume in 1954 with what technology they had. I mean, which, was with all the shit that they had back then that was fucking terrible. Fucking gorilla suits and diver helmets. But even for that time, they did such an iconic job on the creature from the Black Lagoon's costume. But I mean, come on, now, I mean, it could go either way though. They could do CGI, which I hope that's what they wouldn't do. But what they would probably do is they would do 50-50, where they do a prosthetic suit with CGI. Like they might CGI the face or something like that, or just for like long shots when he's like swimming far out in the water and stuff. They might do CGI if they were to remake it. But I would like to see a current modernized version, because this is just such a cool looking creature, and with the right writers and the right special effects, this could really introduce this creature to a whole new era of horror. And especially, I would love to see how scary they could make it now, because I'm horrified of the water any fucking ways. And if you've got a scary ass creature in the water, that's just yikes.
Well, yes,
that's scary to me.
Well, that's really interesting you say that, because, just to get to your first point, in regards to what would the creature maybe look like, if they do remake this, and I think we've got some idea about that, and I think the creature will look very different to the original, because there was actually a storybook written after this movie about the creature. It was carrying on additional stories, but just as in written format rather than in filmed format. And which we see with lots of different things. It happens with Star Trek, it happens with Doctor Who and all these different things.
Right.
Lots of books get written as well as the actual shooting of the movies and TV stuff. But in that, the creature becomes more reptilian. Like it has a tail. Okay, for instance. So it's almost more crocodilian than it is. I think they take a lot of the human element away, and it becomes really more a prehistoric creature, sort of thing. So maybe that's what we would actually see. So what was your second point? It was, the water. That's right, the water. Because I actually think when you watch this, and you're considering this was made in 1954, I think this movie is actually incredibly influential to all the underwater nasty movies that we would have seen that especially started through the 70s, and we're still making today. Mainly I'm talking about shark movies, crocodile/alligator movies.
Yeah, totally.
Now, can you see that? Did you reckon it's been influential?
Oh, absolutely. Because, even the movie says in there that you just never know what's down there. And that's what's so scary about the water is, we think we know everything about our planet, but we're always discovering new creatures. And, in recent years, they've discovered that the giant squid, yes, does in fact fucking exist, which I think is so fucking horrifying too. That's just like, oh my God, what else is down there? But yeah, and that's another thing I love about this movie is it's kind of like it's an undiscovered species, which I think is a really fun type of monster that, it almost gives credence to all the cryptozoological sightings we have around the world, people talking about the Bigfoot in Loch Ness. And, it's just, there's so much, but, legitimately new species are discovered every year of birds and bugs and fish. And this planet's huge and there's so much we don't even have access to because, we can't get into all these nooks and crannies. And, we're not natural born climbers and divers and, we can't live underwater and dive 20,000 leagues without special equipment. So I love this movie that this is a natural undiscovered creature and that's scary as hell.
This is the interesting point, isn't it? It's like, it has been spoken about so many times that there are so many undiscovered species that are actually out there, like in areas like where this movie is meant to be, like the Amazon. And because we are tearing it down and encroaching, we are actually killing off species before we even know they existed.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely terrifying. It's terrifying enough when we realize that we're destroying the biodiversity of the planet. And I know everyone's going to say, oh, you lefty wanker, Warren, carrying on about biodiversity again. Right? However, just remember this, right? people get scared about atomic bombs, people get scared about terrorists and all this sort of stuff, right? Without biodiversity, we stop living. Okay, one of the most important species in our world is bees. You know, if bees disappear, if we kill off bees, we stop living. We actually die. It's not a question of could we... No, we actually die off. And so this is... And so, you know, people sort of say, oh, this lefty wanker crap. No, it's really important stuff. You know, it's really freaking important stuff.
But I love this movie does it very subtly, because you go in thinking you're just seeing a creature feature, and it really does have a message. And I wonder why this movie's such a standout compared to the other Universal horror films, because all of them deal with basically tragic characters, but this one also has an eco message of kind of like, well, if you don't bother him, he won't bother you. You know,
yeah, like, I know, and it's that's also very different as well, because we don't have, we spoke about it before, paranoia cinema. This is 1950s. It should be packed with paranoia. It's not. It's actually not. I mean, yes, we've got one character who, if they can't capture it, well, then they'll kill it. But either way, he's got to get it back to display it. But everybody else doesn't feel that way. All they want to do is document and record it. They don't actually want to take it back. So it doesn't have that paranoia level that all the other movies had at the same time. And I think that's what makes it stand out as being so good. You know, because it took that out, and so now this stands up as a really legit movie, not just some paranoia B-grade piece of bollocks. You know, it's really stands out. Also, the other thing too is that it's shot really well. The cinematography in this is really good. Okay, it is actually
excellent.
For when it was made and on the budget it was made with, it's really good. It's also really fast paced. It doesn't slow down at all, you know. So I think they're the reasons why it stands out so much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this isn't your goofy, let's make fun of it. Because, you know, Warren and I, we love to have a good time and make fun of movies that even if we like the movie, we try to make fun of it. Not like we go out of our way to make fun of it. But I mean, we like to point out, you know, the inconsistencies and little problems. But this is not a movie that there's a lot to make fun of.
No, not at all. Although there are some funny bits. I mean, for instance, when they they collect some rocks and they come up, you know, out of the water, and they say, "Oh, quick, we've got to examine these rocks." And they walk down into the lab on the boat, and they're still wearing their aqua lungs. They've still got their flippers on. You know, it's like, for God's sake, you can actually get out of your scuba gear before you actually start to, you know, to do it.
No,
but here's the other
things I thought was. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I was just going to say one last thing is what's really interesting about this too, about how they actually put real science into it, even though I discussed the biology is a bit out. But their concept of biology, they were trying to make a point, even though they were so off track, but they were trying to make a point about evolution. They were trying to make a point about the fact that we have to study other species because we'll learn from that. Like, for instance, there was a great line in it where it says, something like a lungfish. It's so important to study because this creature can live on land and can live underwater. Why is that so important?
Yes.
And they make the comment, one day we will want to live in space, and studying these creatures will help us learn how we can adapt, you know. But the other point that's interesting is you see them when they're swimming. I've never in a movie, especially in this time frame, have never seen them talk about decompression. They make a really strong point about the fact that if you dive down with scuba gear, you can't just immediately come up to the surface. You've got to decompress.
Yeah. Which I think is good because, I mean, that adds to the story. Because, in other words, why aren't they just, like, hauling ass and getting the fuck out of there when they see the creature? Because they can't. You know, they got to come up slowly or their
they've got to come up slowly.
Going to explode.
And I thought, you never see that in movies. How often do we see it in movies where they go diving or whatever, and they just immediately come up? You know, because anyone who's ever scuba dived knows that you've got to stagger your ascent to come back. You know, otherwise you're going to get the bends. You know, so it was really interesting the way that they added that, and not just once, numerous times into the film.
Oh yeah, they reiterated it. Yeah, there were just very small things in here that made me just kind of chuckle. Like at the very beginning of the movie, the reason any of these scientists or, scholars decide to go down to Brazil to try to, study, this creature and see what's going on is they find a webbed hand fossil, but the way they find it is it's just sticking out of the rock. It's just
sticking out of the rock. I know.
Like a branch, like a tree branch.
I know, that was ridiculous.
And what kills me is the way the guy, he's supposed to be an archaeologist, and he just, takes a hammer and breaks it off.
I know.
I gotta get this back to life. And I'm like, dang. They take years to take this stuff out. It would take them months to, unearth that hand. They wouldn't just, take a hammer and break it off.
He just rips it out. I know. He rips it out. And yeah, I know. And the other thing too is that when they decide, all right, look, this creature is way too dangerous for us to deal with. What we've got to do is we'll escape and then we'll come back with a proper expedition which can deal with this creature. Because we can't. We're just scientists. We can't deal with this creature. It's killing us. Quite literally, it's killing the members of our team. So they decide that they're going to take the boat out and leave the Black Lagoon. But as they do, the creature has blocked off, supposedly, the river. It's laid all these logs and everything, right? So they can't escape. Now, the interesting thing, though, is that, okay, that seems fine and it seems all good. But later, when they're trying to remove the blockage, all the logs and everything, you can clearly see the rest of the river is open and free, right? So all they really had to do was just go around it. All I had to do was go around it.
There's some versions of this movie, and that I think that's part of it is it depends if you show it in the aspect that it's supposed to be watched. You're not supposed to see these flaws, but if you watch it on certain television screens that are wider and they let you see more than you're supposed to of the film, I know that doesn't make sense for a lot of the movies we watch nowadays, but back then a lot of these movies had certain display aspects that they were supposed to have. There's a scene in the movie where you can see fucking telephone poles.
Yes, I know.
But you won't see it if it's displayed on the right kind of screen. You're not going to see the telephone poles. But but on a lot of the modern TVs now, you'll see just all of a sudden these random telephone poles, and it's supposed to be that they're out in the middle of nowhere and there's no technology. There's no civilization, so there should not be any telephone poles.
Some of my favourite, you know how we often get to see outtakes, from movies and stuff, and where you often see things like that where something's got caught in shot, or where there's a classic line. There was an episode of Doctor Who, and one of the doctors leaves the TARDIS and he goes walking down the road, but they filmed it in Spain, and so it was stinking hot. So he's sitting around set with his sunglasses on. So anyway, so they go and he hops into the TARDIS and he walks out and goes, he's still wearing his sunglasses, like he's forgotten, another one of my favourites is where the Mel Brooks movie, History of the World Part 1, and there's a great thing where they're meant to be in France, during the French Revolution, and they're having this conversation, and suddenly you hear this jet fighter come roaring over the top of them. and I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't Mel, but I think one of them turns to Mel Brooks and goes, "Was that the RAF, sir?" I love all that sort of stuff. But it's kind of cool. In fact, a lot of people, actually go out of their way to find all these little faults in films.
Yeah, totally.
It's
just funny. It's funny, but this movie is really well made. There's not too many flaws for this kind of movie from the time. It's amazing that it's held up so well. That I was honestly going in expecting to find all kinds of funny stuff and be like, oh god, I can't believe I liked this when I was a kid and and I'm like, no, this is still really good. It's still very dear to my heart. I absolutely love this movie.
Oh yeah, it's there are a couple of these older 50s sort of sci-fi horror creature feature movies to me that really stand out even today. Now, Earth versus the Flying Saucers is one, which we've already talked about. But this is definitely another. And I think one of the problems actually with this film is it's too good. In other words, if you're going to say to somebody, why don't you start watching some old black and white creature features? Now, if they start with this movie, they're only going to be let down with every other movie they watch after that. Because
that's so true. Yeah,
because
totally,
if they think this is the standard of what you're going to get in creature features from the 50s, no, but this movie is just too good. That's the problem. It's actually too good.
Yeah, you're going to be disappointed. Definitely.
Yeah, most definitely.
Well, you're not going to be disappointed with this movie, but yeah, definitely don't watch it first. We want you to go see it, but if you're not familiar with a lot of 50s creature features, maybe check out some of the other Universal ones just to kind of get warmed up. Start off with Dracula. You can also watch the Spanish version of Dracula, which is also oftentimes said to be even better than the English version. Which you have to check it out. Have you never seen it? Oh, you guys?
No, I've never seen it. I've never seen it. We'll have to review that.
We'll have to review that in the future.
We'll have to review
we'll
that.
Have to review that later this year. There we go. We'll do it later this year. Maybe around Halloween we can do it. That'd be
perfect.
Cool.
Perfect. Absolutely.
Yeah,
perfect.
that would be good, actually. It's a shot-for-shot remake of Dracula, but in Spanish, with a Spanish, or actually, I believe probably Mexico, South American cast. And there's something about it. It just has that certain je ne sais quoi that you thought Bela Lugosi was good. Somehow this Spanish Dracula just brings it. It's amazing. and in a good way, not in a, oh my God, it's so bad, it's good way. And it's so good, it's good way. Yeah.
That's interesting, because sometimes the Italians especially had a bit of a reputation, not really today, but in the past, of ripping movies off literally line for line, shot for shot, scene for scene, so much that they were totally in breach of copyright. There's a classic. There's an Italian shark movie, and I've forgotten the name of it, but it is quite literally a rip-off of Jaws, scene for scene.
Wow!
And they actually got sued. They actually got sued for making it.
Wow.
So yeah, that's just funny stuff. That is funny stuff. All right, so Velvet. Ratings time.
Wow. Okay, so this is not a perfect film, but it's so fucking iconic, and I love it. And it's just what they did with underwater photography. Also, the fact that, which is obviously standard for the time, it's in black and white, and I think that's what adds to this film, and that's why the creature looks even better in black and white, because if there is any flaws with the costume, we're not able to see the zippers as easily, or any discolorations or anything that distracts us from that. And it also adds to the creepiness, because like when he's underwater, his eyes just look like big black holes, and his big gaping fish mouth, and it's just visually so amazing. So I'm going to give it a 4.5 Erics out of a possible 5 Erics.
Actually, sorry guys, we've just got a slight technical issue here. We're just going to pause for 1 second. We'll be right back. Sorry about this, guys. We'll be right back. 1 sec. We're back. I am so sorry about that. We obviously, the creature was coming for us. No, we just had a slight technical issue there that we had to just honestly, it just took us a couple of seconds to fix it, but we couldn't fix it while we were actually on air. So where were we, Velvet? We were rating rating this.
We were rating. So I gave it a rating of 4.5 Erics out of a possible 5 Erics. I absolutely love this film. This is, of all the Universal horror movies, the creature is my favorite horror monster from that universe. Absolutely love the creature, and he doesn't get enough love. So
no, he doesn't, does he? He doesn't. And in many ways, he sort of almost did fall in love in this too. There's a bit of a, would you even say there's a little bit of a King Kong element to this film?
Very slightly, because this movie gives you the vibe that he's the only one of his kind. So, and he sees this pretty swimming humanoid creature, and he thinks that maybe this could, keep him some company.
I was about to.
I don't want to think too much about that, because I'm like, ooh, I hope he's not planning to procreate. Well, that could get awkward.
Well, I was about to say, there's an idea for a sequel. We could have the rated, what is it, the triple X rated version of Creature from the Black Lagoon. Well, don't they make those?
Imagining the suit.
Well,
imagining the suit.
I know. Well, don't they make those parody porn films like this is not the Brady Bunch. This is not the.
I saw years ago the most disgusting porno, high budget porno. I think it was German. It was a German production of E.T., and they straight up had a woman that looked like E.T., but she's having sex, and that was just disgusting. I'm like, who wants to have sex with something that looks like a humanoid mushroom? That is so gross looking. Oh, I hated it. Anyways,
God, yeah.
But me and my friends were making fun of it. It wasn't something that I was watching like, oh, E.T., I'm going to get my freak on. No, this we were watching it for laughs because it was gross.
It reminds me of this. There was one of those movies, one of the send up sort of porn movies that was made, which was called The Penetrator. Obviously send up of the Terminator, but it has a classic line in it, and I think I got to see it very late at night, at one of these boys drinking sessions, sort of thing. This was many years ago. But it has a classic line in it. In Terminator, he says, I will not kill anymore, and he starts wounding people instead of killing them. Well, there's this great line where this guy, he stands, puts his hand up and sort of goes, I promise I will not penetrate anymore.
Oh, God.
It's absolutely hilarious. Oh, God. It was absolutely hilarious. And anyway,
oh my God!
So I'm sorry. Now this,
I've jokingly thought we should one time review a porn spoof that's super adult, but because there's a channel I watch that he makes fun of movies that are pornos, but they have like storylines, really high budgets, and like he made fun of a movie called Driller, which was basically the pornographic version of, wait for it, Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Oh my God!
People having sex everywhere. They had a guy that looked like Michael Jackson singing and dancing. Oh my! I was like, where do you find this stuff?
There is.
So let me.
If we were ever going to do that, because there have been a few really, really high budget adult films that were made. There was one, I think, that was made by the company Vivid called Pirates. Does that sound right?
That was Digital Playground. Digital Playground with Jesse Jane. And they actually you're actually able to remove all the sex from that and watch it as a movie. There's actually a softcore version where they remove all the sex and it's an actual movie. So, I mean, it has been done. It has been done. But some of this shit, I'm like, who wants to watch fucking zombies fucking? That's so gross.
Oh, I know.
Rotting skin, eyeballs falling out. It's just gross.
No. We might stay away from that, I think, somehow or other. We might just stay away from that. Anyway, back to God, how the hell did that come up? Anyway, blame me, probably. It was probably my fault. I'm the king of digression, but I think that even pushed the boundaries for me. I think, how the hell? Anyway.
The creature from the Black Lagoon.
I can't even remember. I can't even remember what your score was now. Sorry. Oh my God.
It was 4.5. 4.5. Okay, I have to say this really quick. What killed me was when you said, imagine if they did a porn spoof of Creature of the Black Lagoon. I'm just imagining the fucking suit would be just like the creatures, except for they have a big circle cut out for the
Oh my God.
Okay, there, I said it. I'm done.
All right.
Okay,
We're moving on. Oh my God. Now Jesus Christ. All right. Now okay. Oh my God. See, now I can't talk properly. Okay. Here we go. All right. Oh, suck it up, Warren. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Right. All right. Here we go. Now, take deep breath. Right. Okay. Now, my review. Okay. I'm going to make this really quick and easy because I'm going to break into laughter again. 4.5 Erics. There you go. 4.5 Erics. It's
right on.
It's no. Okay, I've got it. I'm okay now. No, it's a brilliant film. It's it is so much better than everything else that was made around the same time. It stands out so much, and it's 4.5. It's absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Especially if you watch like something like Robot Monster or Attack of the High Creatures.
Oh my God!
Watch this movie. It's just amazing. The difference in quality.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
Oh, God. I'm having a laugh attack too.
Oh, God.
I don't know how we got on that fucking subject.
All right. Well,
I'm going to send you links to every one of those fucking videos.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Look, I think, look, we've...
Okay, let's do our shout-outs.
Let's do our shout-outs.
Okay, you can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Cult Movie Show. We're not always this bad. We're much more mature online.
Yes.
Speaking of mature, you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at OMG It's Velvet, but please be 18 years or older because I do post adult content. You can also follow my... now I know what I'm going to be posting too. Oh. And now you can follow my co-host on his Twitter at Martini Super Dry. Anytime you guys have a movie suggestion for something you would like us to review, you can always tweet us, you can private message us, or you can even email us. You can email us at cultmovieshow@gmail.com. All right, shout out to our friends, Only Funny to Us, because they help us out. And you can check out their podcast, Only Funny to Us. And also thank you, Alana Evans, for supplying the music at the end of our show. And did I get everything?
I think
anything you'd
so.
like to add?
Just remember, guys, this apart from Twitter, you can also like us on Facebook. We are simply just the Cult Movie Show on Facebook. We don't, be truthful, there's very little on the Facebook page. It's just links to the various podcasts. You're really probably better, if you are going to follow us in any form, to do it on Twitter, because that's where we're actually, and also Instagram, as you said. But if you don't have Twitter, but you still like the show, and you do have Facebook, because I think just about everyone has Facebook, you can like us on there. And also remember, you can listen in various different formats. You can use YouTube, and you can use iTunes, whichever you would prefer. There we go.
Exactly. Right on.
Cool. Oh, good God. Shit. We better end this before it goes into disaster. All right. Look, thanks for listening, guys. This was podcast 28, and we will be back next week with podcast 29, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that one, actually. And
oh my God, I'm so excited. Yes. No.
You're going to be excited about podcast 30. Not 29.
Okay.
This is we're just giving each other private jokes now that none of you have any idea what we're actually talking about. I'm very excited for podcast 30 as well. Trust me. But I am also quite excited about podcast 29. Everything will be made clear in time. Everything will be clear in time, and we promise. I mean, who the hell listens to a podcast to hear two people tell private jokes that no one understands what they're talking about? But anyway.
You know what? I think if they listen to us long enough, they'll be in on the jokes is the fun part.
Yes, hopefully. So we will be back next week with podcast 29. So as always, thank you, Velvet. I love doing this show with you. It's just so much fun. It really is. And it really was
God,
today.
Yes, we have too much fun.
I know. So will we be more professional next week? Nah, probably not.
Don't make promises you cannot keep.
That's exactly right. So thank you as always.
Thank you.
So we'll be back next week, guys. Cheers from me.
All right, and see you guys next time.
No worries. See you next week, and we will leave you, as always, with perfect.